Welcome back to the Witch's Way podcast. I'm Kat.
And I'm Jamie. And tonight we are exploring the guilt that we as women encounter on our spiritual journey, in our daily lives, like in our witchcraft practices, just being part of society. I feel like there's expectations thrown on us that we end up feeling guilt about.
As a woman.
100%.
We so much is placed on us, and when we don't, so many expectations. So many expectations, and when you don't live up to them, I know for me personally.
You feel guilt?
Yeah.
I can feel guilt over it.
I can feel guilt over it, for sure.
So we are going to be discussing guilt and sort of its role in our journey, and then there's basically good guilt and this other guilt that I call bad guilt, but it's not guilt at all. So we're not even going to try to explain that just yet, but we want you to know that this episode really does fall into like the realm of shadow work. This is when we're reflecting on things and how we operate and what we're doing and what values we have. This is shadow work.
Yeah, shadow work is also the practice of just exploring and healing these hidden aspects of ourselves. And the reason that they're hidden is because we're not fully aware of them, and we may not even be aware of how they show up in our lives or how they affect our lives. They're this underlying, they're the subconscious.
It is kind of subconscious,
that we do, or that impacts us or that drives our behaviors or our reactions to things.
And it's the shadow work until you have discovered those things and you confront yourself about it, and then you do the work around it.
And you do the work around it by becoming aware.
Yeah, becoming aware.
Awareness is That's first thing that happens. And then when you catch yourself doing it, then you realize, because you now become aware of it. Mm-hmm. And I'm just thinking of my own journey over the last 5 years, how much I've changed because of becoming aware of certain patterns of behavior and language and things like that I would use in the past that was unhelpful.
Yeah.
So all that shadow work. So
all the unhelpful things. Yeah.
So this also includes, shadow work also includes like the fears, insecurities, past traumas, parts of our personality that we've suppressed. A lot of it goes back to childhood,
teenage years.
The first 7 years of your life. By the time you're 7 years old, they say your personality is formed. Who in the hell remembers much before age 7? That's just crazy.
It's because you've been exposed to enough that you've got these concepts in your head, and that's what you're moving forward with in the world. Yeah. Man.
But the shadow part of ourselves really does influence, how we think and the actions that we take, even though we don't realize it.
Yeah. I think, you ever been around somebody and you're like, why is she like that? Like, I ask myself that question about other people, and I'm like, I want to do their shadow work for them. Be like, let's uncover why you're a bitch all the time, or unhappy, or like, why are you so miserable?
Why are you so miserable?
I mean, I've met people that just seem really, really miserable all the time. Like,
never
they
a
don't
nice
know
thing
how
to
to be
say,
happy.
just nasty.
Yeah.
Just nasty. Or depressed.
And so instead of doing shadow work with them, I just stay away from them.
Feeling sorry for themselves. They're playing the victim. All that stuff.
Yeah. So shadow work is really important because it does allow us to clear our emotional blockages. All right. And then we can align with our authentic or higher self. And then we can harness like the magic of our full potential of our lives, of our dreams, of our hopes and goals and everything we want out of this world. It's like that's what we want to do.
I feel like there's only one way to full magical potential, if we called it full magical potential, and that's elevation. It's elevating ourselves above all the base emotions and all the triggers that we've been, experienced throughout our lives. And I know if you're listening to this, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Like, somebody says something to you and it sets you off because it was something that happened like 5 relationships ago, or in your childhood, or,
I know.
So
what's one of yours? Because I have one that sticks out to me so much. And I didn't know it was a trigger until somebody said it to me. I had no idea.
So one of my triggers is my youngest daughter trying to mother me.
Oh, shit. No, but how does that go back to, like, that comes from your childhood then?
Well, no, actually what I think it comes from is, like, I have this rebellious streak in me where I don't like authority and I don't like people telling me what to do. And that goes back to, I think it goes back to when I was young. I felt like I didn't have a voice when I was really young, like before up to age 10 or 11. And then after age 11, then I got a voice, but I really I didn't use it very well. I did a lot of things that were like inflicting pain on myself and hardship on myself.
Yeah.
On myself.
Yeah.
So I think it comes from the fact that when I was little, I didn't feel like I could speak up because I was afraid. And my mother, she was batshit crazy. And then by the time I broke free of that and wasn't around her anymore, and now I had a voice, and then I was just like, don't tell me what to do.
To anybody and everybody.
Don't tell me what to do.
Like anybody. She's
Don't
gritting
tell
her
me.
teeth now. Don't tell me.
What's yours?
Somebody calling me stupid, like that I'm not, my intelligence being threatened, basically. Like when I had my intelligence threatened, or somebody tried to say that, I don't know why I'm so rooted in like being intelligent. I guess I've worked really hard at it.
Well,
I know that I am.
We just realized we were just doing some astrology work recently, and discovered that Jamie has mostly air in her chart.
Yeah.
More air, and she's a water sign, so she's a Pisces.
Sign, yeah.
But to come to the realization, or it's almost like an epiphany, is like, oh my God, no wonder I don't connect.
Yeah,
with
I don't always
other
feel like a Pisces. Yeah,
you don't feel like a Pisces.
Nope.
But air is the element. That's the thinking. So
I have
I can
7
see
placements in air.
I can see why that's really, your mind is really important to you. And she's always been like little Miss Science nerd and super curious about everything.
And I love that about
me. She's been sort of honing her brain and like exercising her brain since she was very young, because she always was interested in everything around her, how it worked.
Learning everything.
So
learning everything.
Did someone call you stupid?
Yeah. Cam's dad did one day.
Oh.
He insulted my intelligence, and I about had like a heart attack and killed him at the same time. I don't know. There was just this thing that I remember, the visceral feeling that came over me for him to be like, you're just not that intelligent. I was like,
that's what he said? You're not that intelligent?
He said worse words, but it was that was basically it. It was in a fight, of course, where he wanted to goad me into a fight.
Like he did. He wanted to provoke you.
And
so he went for what he knew was.
But I don't know that he knew that was such a trigger for me to call, like, to try to put me down. But
well, honestly, coming from Mr. Sharp, I'm not sure how much of an insult that is, honestly, because
listen, you know how people are when they're young. They think they're hot shit. They think they're smarter than everybody else. Yeah.
And then they grow up, and then they find out they ain't got shit going on. Yeah. All right. So
that was a long intro.
That was a very long intro. So you're getting some of our own shadow work that we're sharing here with you.
Definitely.
But you've worked through that now. Would you still have the same reaction today if somebody was to call you? Say something about your intelligence, or you're not as smart as you think, or you're a know-it-all?
No, I've gotten less and less concerned about what other people think of me, or the things they can say to me.
Go. That's growth right there.
Yeah, just when you can finally affected,
not be affected by the stupid shit that people say. That's real growth.
Observe, not absorb.
Yeah. It's hard, but it can be done. So,
all right, well, let's jump into the topic of like guilt and how did we get here, and like what the fuck is really going on, and why as women we feel a lot of guilt in our lives. So I do have this weird thing, this bad guilt thing. But first we're going to talk about like, what is guilt? What's the purpose of it? And what guilt have we really felt in the past? You know, I know right before we got on this, Kat and I were talking about at Christmas time how they have that Salvation Army guy outside the stores.
They always have the little man or the little old lady.
They have people out there.
And when they look at me, they're like begging with their eyes, and I always feel so bad. Then I don't put any money in there. I almost feel like I have to justify that I don't have any cash or something. You know, like
you gotta say something to them.
I don't want to make eye contact with them.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because it feels like pressure.
Do you feel guilty after you walk away, like that you didn't give anything?
I feel guilty when I'm walking up to them and I already know that I'm not going to give them money.
She's like, I already see this coming. So what do you think it is about that makes you feel guilty?
You know, I don't know. I kind of feel bad that they're standing out there in the cold all day ringing a bell, and like people are just walking by them and ignoring them. So I sort of feel bad for them.
Okay.
And then that makes me feel bad, like I could do something about it to make it better, and I don't.
Ooh, you're actually going to bad guilt. We're going to talk about that one next. I love it. Well, okay, so guilt is really just an indicator. Guilt is a feeling, an emotion that we feel that's an indicator that we did something. It's an action that we did something that's out of alignment with like what we believe in, like our morals and values. Like if you're an animal lover and you hit a dog, you would probably feel a lot of guilt around that.
Yes.
And by hit, I meant spank, not a car. But like if you disciplined an animal, or like you get a new puppy and people used to rub the animal's nose and stuff, just anything like that.
Yeah.
That could bring you feelings of guilt. Yelling at your child, yelling at a family member, I don't know.
Being impatient,
flipping somebody off in traffic. There's all these actions that we
cussing
do.
people out when you're driving because they're so slow and they drive you crazy. Hello, Florida.
And then you want to honk at them and you realize it's just a little old person trying to get where they're going, and you're like, oh, why are you alone? Somebody should be taking care of you.
Exactly, yeah.
See, that's when I would feel guilty. Be like, oh, it's not their fault that they drive slow and can't see. So guilt is something that is really, really useful to feel. But there's that good guilt, healthy guilt. That's like, oh, you acted out of character. You should reflect on that and fix it. That's what guilt is for. Guilt is not for these other things that we're going to talk about that I think is bad guilt. And you can think about it. I know somebody had asked me before, like, what's guilt and shame? How are they different? So with guilt, that's you saying like, oh, I did something that I don't agree with. I did something bad. I did something that I'm not proud of. But shame is like, I am bad. I am horrible. I am a terrible person. It's you believing it about yourself. That's when shame comes in, when you own the action as part of your personality. So, you can ask yourself, how does guilt cause you to act or react? If your type of guilt is like, oh, I'm ashamed by that, I should fix that, I should try to do better next time, that's good guilt. You're doing okay. But bad guilt is like, you did something and you did or didn't do something. It could be like giving the change out, and then it ruminates with you and you're like, I really want to make that person feel better. I feel bad for them. You want to take their situational pain away. It's like, no, don't feel bad. Here, let me have that for you. I'll take that. I want you to be happy and enjoy things. People do this a lot in families and with children and at work. The women will just eat the things. We'll just be like, no, I don't want you to feel bad, so I'll take care of that. I'll take the burden on.
A lot.
Yeah. I think I got off track there. I went from one to the other really, really fast. I know.
Well, I think because I think we have a good understanding of this first part of it, like good guilt.
Yeah, the good guilt thing.
I think the only thing that I would add about good guilt, and I'm using air quotes when I say that, it's good guilt, is that I do feel like it's a check on ourselves, like that we're not, if we feel guilty about something, it's a good thing to ask ourselves, like, why do I feel bad about that? And then, because maybe you're not sure, like if you feel guilty about whatever, like in some encounter that you have with a person at Walmart, or, I have become very much more aware of how my tone of voice. And I try to be especially careful with people when I'm on the phone because they can't see your face. Yeah. And especially when I'm calling about a problem. Like I had to call a company last week because I was like pissed off about something, and I like really like tried to control the tone of my voice and how I was speaking, but I was pretty excited, if you will. My emotions were elevated. And so at the end of it, I felt like I wanted her to know, the woman the representative that I was talking to was like, I'm really sorry if I came across, said I didn't mean that, And so it was, for me, that moment of like being aware of how I was saying it, making sure that I was not putting whatever my frustrations were onto this person who just is answering the phone and trying to help me and ask questions, even though I'm frustrated with the company. But I already realized that through that conversation that there were points in it where I was just like, your guys' communication is terrible, I mean, I said that. So is it terrible? No, because later I went back and actually found text messages and emails that they sent me that But anyway, the thing about the good guilt, I guess the good guilt is like if you're feeling bad about something, then ask yourself why. Like for me, like I already know that I have to watch my tone of voice, and that I have to, one of my goals is to just be kinder to people.
Yeah.
Because I haven't always been in my life. I've always been kind of like, fuck off, And I don't need people, and just stay away from me.
Yeah. You're protecting yourself with that.
Exactly. Like I put up a wall and then like, don't come near my wall because I'll shoot daggers at you. And
oh, shit. You'll get some mad side eye over here and some being,
So, I mean, that's something that I've worked on over the last 5 years that I've been here.
You're going to have to say 6 pretty soon. I feel like you've been saying 5 for a long time.
It is more than 5 years now. Yeah. This year will be 6. But,
oh, yes.
So we talk. So that's the good guilt. That's the guilt that's kind of a check on you, and for you to ask yourself, why do you feel bad about that? What could you have done better in a situation where you do feel like, oh shit, I shouldn't have done that. And then you just are like, oh, you get the little pang of like, you shouldn't have done something. So that's the good guilt. It's a check.
It is. It's a checks and balances system for like, am I living in alignment with what I believe in? That's because when you do something that's not in that alignment, you feel guilt over that. But then that other bad guilt, which is
what
really,
is the bad guilt? So what's the difference?
This is a fictitious thing. Bad guilt is not a real thing. Don't look it up on the internet. I made it today for this. Just so you know.
We just make things up around here.
Absolutely. I got my own language all the time. But there's no other way to describe it, because it's what we always say. We're like, oh, I feel guilty about that. But it's not actually guilt, because you didn't not act in alignment with your values. Like a good example of this is like a kid in a store that wants a bunch of toys. Okay. No, every time you go to the store, you probably shouldn't be buying your child a toy. And when you don't buy the child the toy and they're upset about it, you might feel something that's like guilt, where you're like, damn, I hate them being upset. I wish they weren't. I wish I could make it better. This is what women go through as nurturers, is we start thinking like, how can we make this situation better? How can we fix it? We're supposed to be the caretakers. We're supposed to take on that responsibility of possibly keeping people happy, making them happy.
Says the patriarchy.
That's right. The societal expectation of what women are in charge of, what we're supposed to do, what's our roles as mothers, as friends, as sisters, whatever. So what you're actually feeling in that moment, it's not guilt for not getting a child a toy. You're actually feeling bad that you have to watch them go through an uncomfortable situation. And that makes you uncomfortable enough to try to fix it and hold all of their feelings in for you. I cannot think of anything. I tried to comb through all of my references of like, I didn't do that shit. Cameron was not a kid toy. He wasn't a toy kid. He didn't want shit at the store. He just never wanted a lot. So I didn't have to go through that. But we also didn't have cable TV, and he never saw commercials. So he didn't get the idea that he's supposed to have all these loud, shiny, noise-making toys everywhere. He was never like that. So, go to fast food or get ice cream or have ice cream at bed. Like, no, saying no wouldn't make me feel guilty, because that does not align with the values of like, no, that's not healthy for him. I don't want to say yes just so he's happy, but I'm doing something bad for his health. That's why I wouldn't feel guilt over it. So the other situation is like, you feel guilt because somebody's uncomfortable. Yeah. Now that I have done in my life a lot. Tried to keep other people from being uncomfortable, so I allow myself to be uncomfortable.
Yeah,
this is with like adults.
And I do think we have a tendency as women, because we've been conditioned to take on other people's shit,
Yeah.
and try to fix it. We're raised to be nurturers and mothers, and so the whole mothering instinct thing comes into it, and like that's your role in society. Bullshit.
That's how people expect us to act.
That's how people expect us to act, but we're changing that. We're changing that.
I guess
that's why the witch is coming out in all of us.
Yeah, the witch archetype is coming back around, because we don't want to be told what to do. We don't want to be...
Well, why are we responsible for all of that? That's another podcast. But, if you examine, like, why have women been put into this roles, and why these expectations, and then how do we break free of it? And it seems like we're going to have to go to extremes. But again, that's a little bit off track from what we're talking about. But, the thing about what you're talking about, Jamie, is like... bad guilt is bad guilt that you feel, which is guilt that you feel when you shouldn't feel guilt. Is that basically what you're saying?
Because it's not truly guilt. What it is it's, you ever been like, oh, that makes me feel bad. I feel bad for them. Feel bad. That's the common language that everybody always uses. That is, instead of saying, I feel guilty about that, they're like, I feel bad about that. Oh, I feel bad for them. I feel bad. And you see that they're trying to empathize with that person. They're like, oh, I am acknowledging the pain in that other person. But they go one step further, and then they try to absorb that discomfort by either doing things for them. I gotta say, I know somebody that the way that their parents fucking tried to help them through their problems was, oh, every time this kid got in trouble and then was really sad and upset with themselves and like beating themselves up, right? The parents were like, let's go shopping. How about a new pair of shoes? Then they would go buy him stuff. Like, oh, man. The fuck? So that's the way his parents were very uncomfortable seeing him uncomfortable, and they wanted to fix it. So they do something to absorb that discomfort. That's what I mean by like bad guilt, because there's not a name for it. I don't know the name for that. But it's not truly a guilt.
It's not really guilt. It's displaced responsibility or something.
I mean, that would be true, because what you do, if you're taking somebody else's discomfort away, you're robbing them of that valuable lesson that they need to grow, to become stronger. You don't want to take away the pain of everything. Pain does have its function for growth, Absolutely. And I think that that's really where this, labeling this podcast from guilt trip to growth, that's what it's about. Because if we get stuck in that guilt place and always trying to fix everybody else's problems, we will not grow. We will actually be burdened and burdened and burdened and burdened.
Well, yeah. And the other thing, this bad guilt keeps us stuck in these patterns of self-doubt. I'm not sure of myself, like questioning who you are and what your values are and what you believe in.
Yeah. Because if you give into it all,
and it also erodes self-worth and makes you question your abilities and decisions. So I guess that's the way to discern between these two. You've got the check on the kind of the check, with the good guilt, and then this other guilt that you shouldn't take on because you're trying to, you're taking responsibility for something that doesn't belong to you.
That's true, yeah.
And that is going to erode your confidence and your, you're thinking that you are smart enough and strong enough and wise enough to make your own decisions and stuff. And it's just going to erode those good, your self-worth.
The healthier things that we think about ourselves.
Yeah.
Because if you're taking on everybody else's burdens, you don't have any time for yourself. That's what that will lead to. You do it once, you might not notice a change. You do it 5 times, then it's starting to become a habit. And then when you get into a lifetime of doing that, you stop taking care of yourself. You stop believing in your self-worth. You start looking at, I'm only valuable if I'm fixing somebody else's problems. Yeah. Because when you get around people who don't have any problems, you'll notice you'll be very uncomfortable because you don't have a fucking job anymore. You know, so if that becomes your job,
it can really spiral into something that you really need to be aware of, because it can spiral down into a place
bad dependency relationships. Even it's like, nope, I need somebody to need me to fix things, otherwise I don't have worth. Yeah, it really can get way out of control. But so now that we have a better understanding of how guilt operates and where we can see it pop up. Examples. We try to give some good examples of that. That was harder for me to come up with. Let's look at how we can break free from this and sort of hold and step into a guilt-free and an empowered way of living. If we understand what guilt is really for and how this other bad guilt can exist, we need to get away from it. To do this, we've really got to know what part of ourself is pushing the guilt feeling. Is it our ego or our higher self?
Ooh, so now we're on to the part of ego versus the higher self.
Ego versus the higher self.
Ego versus the higher self.
This is always a battle. The two, there can be harmony between them, but you have to understand that one wants one thing and one wants a totally another thing.
Absolutely.
And you can see how what people are driven by.
Well, and I think the ego versus the higher self it could really define our elevation as we grow through the phases of becoming our most pure and full of love, and just that. I don't know what your goals are. If you think of are you the person that you want to be, or do you feel like you still have growing to do? in your journey through, like, your witch journey?
That's a great question. I think I am who I am. I'm good, but I still get opportunities to grow and refine things. You know, I'm not perfect. There's never a perfect, like, you're not ever done. So I don't think of it like that. But
I'm still, you know, I'm pretty new into my spiritual journey, I feel like. And I feel the burden of it, or not the burden of it. I feel the weight of it and the responsibility of it, because I spent like 60 years being one way.
Yeah.
And now at 60 years old, when I became aware and started hanging out with my girls and doing the witchcraft stuff, and like all of these things came up. So my journey into this higher elevation of Kat is short. Compared to yours,
small.
I feel like it's
gone really fast, though.
I feel like it's a short period of time. So anyway, let's go back to ego versus a self. So let's start with ego. Our ego is tied to us. It's tied to our survival instincts. It's tied to our self-identity. It's tied to our external validation. It pops up and says, hold on a minute, this feels unsafe, or this is uncomfortable. This is this danger, and I'm using air quotes again, can be real or imagined. A scary alleyway, or speaking in front of a room full of people. Oh my God, that makes my heart. That actually makes my heart palpitate. When I say, because when I think about speaking, how about just speaking on a Teams call in front of like 60 people, most of whom I don't know?
Yeah,
that's nerve-wracking.
That's bigger than a room full of people. Yeah, 60
but anyway,
people.
These are things, stuff like that. This can like make your skin crawl and send us running, or wanting to hide, or wanting to turn our cameras off on Teams, or be like, do I really have to talk today?
So I think that when you think about public speaking, because I really do feel like everybody can relate with this.
Yes.
Because if they haven't done it, then they definitely probably have a fear of it, because otherwise people get into it. But I think that the reason why people fear public speaking is they worried about how they'll be perceived.
Absolutely.
They worry about how whatever
you don't want to stumble over your words and be dyslexic.
You don't want to look stupid. You don't want to be, incoherent. You don't want to like not make sense.
So is that all part? Is that ego?
That's all ego.
That's all ego.
Because that's external validation from other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it wraps up in our fears and like us trying to be who we're going to be, so that people, when we act, they see it and they're like, oh, I like that person. And we're liked. And we're like, oh, I'm liked. I feel safe. I'm good in the world. Yeah. That's
everybody
all
who doesn't want to be liked.
I mean,
I
think we all want to feel like we belong.
Yeah.
I think being liked is more superficial. But we learn that in schools, right? To be liked, to be...
when I say liked, I mean I guess it's more of an impression. Like you want to leave... I want to leave a good impression.
Oh, good.
I want to leave a good impression on people. I don't want to walk away from a situation and them going like, my God, what in the hell was that?
Well, I think something I've been living by since I was very young, probably 13 or 14 years old. And I don't know who said it. I'm sure somebody's going to tell me. And it gets said all the time now. But people won't remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel. I think one of my teachers told me that. And it never left me. I was like, that is so fucking true.
That's really powerful when you think about that. Because, what do you have to do to just leave somebody feeling good? A smile, a compliment.
So your interaction with people, you really do have more control over what you do and not what they do. And I think what ends up happening, this is where we get mixed in with the ego. We can be our higher selves, smiling and everything, and that person on the other end could still be bitchy and rude and in their moment. Mm-hmm. How are we going to respond, and what are we going to act, and what are we going to do? Are we going to match their level, or are we going to stay us and be like, wow, it sounds like you're having a really hard day. Listen, I'm all good. Thank you. Have a great day. And just get off the phone with them, or whatever the interaction is going to be, or you do be like, yeah, well, thanks a lot. Okay, thanks. And you get that short tone and kind of like irritated and like, bye, fuck, get out of here. Yeah. It gives us a chance to exercise. Do we continue in alignment with who we want to be? Or do we go back to that base emotion of...
So one of the things that we have a note of here is fear of rejection. So this is the ego talking again, right?
Yeah.
So
I've noticed this more with men than women, though, which is really weird. Because women, it's not a fear of rejection with them. It's like, it's a fear of connectedness, not being able to connect. Rejection comes from the man, where it's like, nothing about you is good. Like, men just, they're like, take it all or have nothing. Like, it's an all or nothing story, where women are like, I can have a good conversation and slowly, like, work my way in there. And it's going to be this, this more of I don't want to say game, but where you have more time with it. Where men, it's like first impressions, either yes or no, and then they're done. Like, they don't want to do the connected thing, where women do. Mm-hmm. So they're just different. But
to wrap up ego, the thing we can say about ego is that ego does not like being uncomfortable, which is why it conflicts with growth.
It does so much.
Because part of our journey through all these things that we do, and I believe why most people, or many people, come to Witchcraft, is to go on a journey to our higher selves and just a kinder, loving person in the world, and just spread joy into the world. How about that?
Yeah, good vibes.
Yeah, exactly. Good vibes.
Yeah.
And so when we're in our heads or in our ego, and we're always worried about this stuff, we can recognize that as an opportunity for us to grow from that to our higher selves. So
yeah, absolutely. So now what about our higher self? We're doing this battle of the ego versus the higher self, right? The purpose of the higher self is to guide you toward living a life of authenticity, of spiritual alignment, and that is different for everybody. Spiritual alignment is a personal goal thing, what you set for yourself, what that looks like for you. But then it's the personal growth as well. So you know that each year, let's just make it a bigger thing, each year you're getting better. You're doing better at, taking care of yourself, being authentic to yourself, stating your goals, dreams, and desires, and going after them, and not living in a place where you're like miserable and hate your life, and you like, the only reason you do regular life every day is so that you can have your 2 hours at night at home where you are in a happy place. I thought of that with jobs.
So your highest self also represents your wisest self, your most compassionate self, and a connected version of yourself that's rooted in your soul's purpose. And again, I think that is different for everyone, because when you start on any kind of a spiritual journey of any kind, you decide, like, what ultimately is that soul purpose. Why are you here?
What is the soul purpose?
Yeah, what is your soul purpose?
I think that we go through our lives questioning that and looking for more purpose than just, go to work, go to college, or go to work. Go to school, go to college, get a job, have kids, get married, eventually retire, move to Florida, whatever that template life looks like. That's not everybody's soul's purpose. That's not what everybody's here is meant to do, right? We're born with unique gifts and curiosities that can lead us in directions. There are jobs out there that we have never heard of. None of us have heard of them because they're so obscure and so particular, right? Some guy had to study the fungus underneath trees to know that they can all communicate and connect. Where the fuck was that in college? What degree was that? How come I didn't know about that way back then? So there's
Jamie wanted that job.
I'm telling you what, why can't I be studying fungus in the forest? And I could now because I know about it. But that's what growth looks like, is you're constantly putting yourself out there to experience new things, to learn new things, to see where else you can grow, what else you might like. Yeah, I keep going way off track. Sorry about that.
Well, that's okay. I was just going to say on that was, so about bridging the gap between physical existence and our spiritual existence. So that is another difference, if you will, between the ego self.
Yeah, the ego is like about survival and control and being here and like staying alive.
Ego is when you think of somebody, if you would put a label on someone to say they're an egomaniac, what does that mean? It's like somebody who's really self-centered. That's what that is, an egomaniac. Probably not a super popular word anymore. It's like narcissist. I think they call those guys narcissists now. Guys, I said guys, but I think they call them narcissists now. But somebody who's all about themselves, that's our ego.
And the reason that is not helpful is because there's not growth there. When you're controlling other people and you're building, it's a lot of it's very false, right? To be a narcissist is to believe in the lies that you want to create so that you don't have to deal with your shit. Like you create the lines that people are going to stay inside of so that you don't ever have to deal with your stuff. And if they question you on anything, that's when you go crazy on them, right? Because they're like, no, you're crazy. Like, you've got problems. I'm fine. I'm perfect. I do all this good stuff. It's all lying to themselves. Yeah.
Okay, so what does our higher self look like in our everyday life?
In everyday life, I love this. So I think about the higher self acting through us, right? By every act of love that we do. Generosity, the gratitude that we have. That's our higher self coming through. Because that's what I believe our kindness, our soul's essence. Yeah. That's what I think it is. The human experience does not have all that, so we have to tap into our higher self in order to experience this really unconditional love, to feel gratitude for every single thing that we have, the experiences, whether they're good or bad, to just be grateful that we came here to go through these experiences to grow ourselves. So we seek things out. We seek to make things in our lives spiritually aligned with our higher purpose or the soul's purpose, which I don't know that we ever truly figure out, because once you do, it might change again,
That's growth, right?
And that's
you're
evolution. Just reaching that next level.
Yeah, you are.
And I think where people get scared is that they don't know what the big picture looks like. Just make a small picture first. Just go to this step first. You don't have to go see the end. Yeah. I think examples of this are instead of taking someone else's actions or words personally, like I said, if you're on the phone with somebody and they're rude, bad moods and pessimistic attitude, fucking rude comments.
Oh my God, people have gotten very rude.
I mean, I can't even think about the online spaces with this.
It's, and it's coming out, not just online, but we've forgotten our manners. Yeah. For sure.
I try to tell people, observe what's happening with the other person. Do not absorb that into your body and allow that energy to affect you. Stand firm in your place.
I think that's a good mantra. Observe, don't absorb. Observe, not absorb.
Yeah.
Observe, not absorb. Because you can probably find yourselves in many situations where there's some kind of an argument going on. Maybe even you're the one in the argument, but certainly... or your spouse is in a bad mood and you're like, what did I do? You didn't, this is when it would be good to repeat yourself. Observe, don't absorb.
Yeah. You can do the normal thing. Ask people, are you okay? Is something wrong? Maybe you do want to help. Is there anything I can do to help? But that doesn't mean you become personally responsible for their happiness. And it needs to be completed actions by you to make it that way. The other one that's weird that I just thought of, that plane that I was on to Paris, and the woman that was crying the whole way. We had several hours of turbulence, and it was scary. It was not comfortable.
Was she crying because of turbulence?
Oh my God. I mean, Lord. Crying and it was this hysterical, she was terrified, and you could just hear it in her voice. And it took everything in me not to feed into her fear, because I was getting scared. It was scary. We're on a big ass plane over the ocean. We're nowhere near anything. And I know all the stupid stories about planes getting lost and I don't want to die that way. So I had to, instead of spiraling out and absorbing her fear, I decided I was going to start speaking an affirmation of protective light being around the plane, everything, we're going to be fine. Everybody's going to arrive safe and sound. They already told us to expect this. This is not an unexpected event. So I had to do things rationally to bring myself out of absorbing her fear and just observing it and saying I feel so bad for her. They were trying to comfort her. People tried to bring her things, but she was terrified.
So, I mean, I think that's a good example of, when you elevated yourself in that terrifying situation, when you were scared too.
I was scared. Yeah. It was scary.
You changed the narrative in your own mind and and that had the effect of changing or reducing the stress and worry that she was causing by her. Was this 2 hours of her?
This was 2 hours. Yeah, it was really.
I can't even imagine.
We had sound canceling headphones, but honestly, it was so jolting and jarring, the plane doing it, and it was very hard to try to get lost in another world, so we just kind of sat there and endured, but there was nothing that was going to drown her out. She was literally right behind me, 1 or 2 seats over. So
oh my gosh.
No, it was too much.
Whew.
Yeah, it took a lot. That requires strength, like mental strength and belief in yourself and in just the powers that be, you know, like asking my guardians, like, come on guys, please, can we please fucking do something about this plane? Like, I'm not above asking my spirit guides for help on things like that, or to send hers to her. Like, can her spirit guides come in and try to comfort her? But also not taking away somebody else's uncomfortable experience. Maybe this was her first time on a plane and this is something she had to go through in order to like start a transition of, you know, moving back and forth across countries or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
well, so
we're
other
responsible
ways
for ourselves.
Yeah. So
really
other ways that you might see, you know, your higher self expressed in the ways that, in the things that you do, everything is you choosing to pursue your passion and your joy, whatever it is. Even if it deviates from a conventional path, kind of like calling ourselves witches and using magic.
Absolutely. Yes.
Also, when we forgive ourselves for our past mistake, that's elevated. You're elevating at that point to your higher self.
And difficult shadow work there.
I think that's something that goes on for a very long time.
Definitely.
Because you'll forget about things from your past until there's a trigger. At least I find this with myself. So much of my stuff, you know, at my age, so much, I have a lot of past behind me.
Yeah.
You know, I got a lot of years lived, and sometimes I'll remember something will come up, and it will be a trigger for me, and I'll be like, oh man, I wasn't very nice. But forgiving yourself in those situations. Yeah. And also another thing I think is when we have challenges and to see them as opportunities. I feel like your situation on the plane was a challenge for you, and you took the opportunity to turn it around so that you weren't going through, well, probably to just calm yourself, because Definitely. It had to been really frightening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and okay. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just thinking that when we can see challenges as opportunities for growth, we go from looking at all the ways that things could go wrong, and we actually shift it to like, what can I learn from this? And so you are focused on something else other than like a bad outcome. You're focused on, okay, what can I learn in this moment right now where I am uncomfortable? What do I see around me? What am I really struggling with? Like, you start to ask these deeper questions so that you grow from it. And a lot of times I feel like I don't have repeat situations if I do that when I'm in that situation and I'm uncomfortable right then, and I do the higher self thing, right, where I'm like, okay, here's how I'm going to respond, here's how I'm going to act, and I'm not going to get mad, I'm not going to let my emotions take over, those base emotions. I seem to have less of those situations repeat, or if they do, I don't even notice them, because I've now like blocked that thing where people's negativity, I don't have to come home and rant about it. You know, every once in a while it'll be bad enough to be like, you won't fucking believe what happened to me today. And then I gotta talk about it. But a lot of times it's kind of like, whoop, just, it didn't faze me. So it doesn't stick with me, you know, like it used to, where I had 6 things to bitch about at the end of the day. Now, like, I don't always even have one.
So now that we've identified how guilt emerges from the tug of war between our egos and our higher selves, let's explore how shadow work helps bridge this gap and transforms guilt into growth using a bit of shadow work.
Yes, and I love shadow work. It's a name that means a lot of things. Shadow work is any time that you're just reflecting on yourself and why you do what you do and how you can be better. Like,
I know we have Book of Shadows, which, you know, is something that pretty much all witches know and are really curious about.
Yeah.
Because our Book of Shadows video is still one of our most watched videos.
Oh, yeah.
But the shadow work, I think I would like you to repeat what you just said, because shadow work doesn't mean that you're writing about it all the time. It doesn't mean that you're journaling about every single thing that's going on.
It doesn't have to be that complicated.
Shadow work is self-reflection. It's also like you taking a walk and thinking, you sitting out in your yard and thinking about things in your life and how you can process what's going on in your life, or get through a particular challenge, or if you're having a problem with one of your family members, how you can, like, in your mind, you're going like, okay, well, before I've always done it this way, but that's never really worked to solve the problem. So I'm going to do it this way. So there's a lot of thinking that can be shadow work too. It's not always just writing it down. I think want to make that distinction.
Point. Yeah, it's not
that it doesn't mean that you've got volumes and volumes of books of shadows where you've written out your whole life. Although if that's your thing, more power to you, because I think that would be
awesome.
Yeah.
I have a lot that just goes on in my head.
We as women, we are in our heads.
I'm in my head a lot. So, driving, anytime I'm doing something that I don't really need, that my body's sort of in autopilot. Yes. Mm-hmm. When I'm gardening, I'm thinking through stuff, driving definitely, walking on the beach. Those are the times that I'm doing shadow work sometimes. Nobody even knows.
So this weekend I had a little project going on in my backyard. I worked on it all day yesterday and then half of today, and instead of listening to a book that I was listening to, I had on like my sleep meditation music came on. It just started up for some reason, and I was like, I kind of like this. So as I worked, I had this like soothing music playing in the background the whole time, and it was really nice.
I love that.
It was very nice. So I don't know why I'm bringing that up, just because I was thinking, I felt like I was in some kind of a zone, because of the music. It was such like this meditative music, and the work I was doing, I have bad knees, so I can't like squat down in my garden, so it's a lot of bending over. Ugh.
And now a lot of back breaking, bending over all the time.
So shadow work.
Yeah. So shadow work, easy way to remember it is really just reflecting on your actions. Of course, we do that reflection so that we can change and get better. But the start is to just like reflect. So I want to give you these 3 things to remember, okay? The ego's job is to protect and separate. Protect your self-identity, separate you from any bad situation, so it doesn't want you to grow. The higher self's job is to connect you and align you. So this is making connections with yourself, with animals, plants, other people, and aligning you with morals and values that you truly want to uphold. The second thing is, guilt arises when the ego perceives that you have fallen short of societal or self-imposed expectations. So that is why guilt comes about, because you think that you have fallen short of some expectation outside of yourself or from yourself. The third thing, guilt from the higher self's perspective is not punishment, but an indicator of just misalignment. So guilt is not bad. Guilt is an indicator that you are out of alignment with things that you truly believe in and you want to uphold. That's why guilt comes through. That's why we reflect, because it's like, why am I feeling this guilt? Did I actually do something that wasn't in alignment? Yeah. We want to do that work so that we know that we're living in alignment with what we want to be or who we want to be.
So you can shift from that ego-driven guilt to the higher self-reflection with a couple of different ways. One is to recognize that guilt is as a temporary emotion rather than as something that you're self-identifying with. Like, because you feel guilty does not make you a bad person.
Right.
Or you feel guilty about something does not mean that you're bad in that, either in that situation or whatever that is, the guilt thing. Like, not buying your kid a toy or not taking them to McDonald's and they're screaming the whole way.
Oh, God. Yeah.
I love McDonald's.
Oh, Lord.
You're not a bad parent just because your kid's crying and wanting something that they're not getting.
Because they're uncomfortable. You're not a bad parent when your kids are uncomfortable.
Also, recognizing that taking away other people's discomfort because you feel guilty and you want to save them from disappointment, you're really doing that person a disservice by trying to absorb their lessons.
Yeah,
their lessons and their opportunities for growth. When guilt comes up, you can pause and ask yourself, is this guilt helping me grow or is it holding me back? I mean, I think that's a really good reflection question that you can ask yourself as things come up throughout your day, your week, your month, interactions with people. Because I do really feel like women have an unfair burden has been placed on us in society. And so we can have a lot of guilt just naturally because it's like, well, I'm supposed to do this or people expect me to do that. So ask yourself when those situations come up, is whatever you're feeling guilty about helping you grow, or is it holding you back?
Yeah.
And then the other thing that you can do is to the self-thoughts that we have, the critical self-thoughts that we have, you can change those from critical self-thoughts to self-inquiry. What can I learn from this? I think that is such a great question. Like, I think of you, and you've been having a hard time. Well, you just went through a bunch of shit recently.
Which year are we talking about?
She's been
2023, 2024.
Jamie's had a rough couple of season cycles, I would think, I would say, because there's just been a lot going on.
Just a lot going on.
Like so much going on. And I really noticed that you were like, I think 2 cars broke down in one. We lost 2 cars in 1 week.
2 engines went out in 1 week.
2 engines went out in 1 week, and then something else happened. It was like 3. Oh, your son was in the hospital,
and Cameron was in the hospital.
So all in a matter of days, two cars
like
broke.
A Monday to Wednesday.
It was like one thing. It was like one thing after another, and I remember talking to you about that and just being like, my God, how much more can you handle? And you're just like, you know what? There's lessons in here for me. I know the universe is. And I think that maybe the lesson for you was don't freak out.
Don't freak out.
Don't freak out, because these things are out of your control.
Yep.
Right?
They are.
Can't change. Cameron had a seizure and ended up in the hospital. Okay, so we already know what happens with that. There's a whole thing. We've been through this half a dozen or more times now.
Too many.
And then, the car is breaking down. It's like, okay, yeah, that's fucked up. Now my sister doesn't have a car. Now what? And now I don't have an extra car.
Right,
But you can't do anything about those things. So you can take them as opportunities for self-reflection and then ultimately growth. Because if you don't freak out and get all upset and worry and drink too much, eat too much, snap at your kids or your husband or whatever, do all the things that we tend to do when we get stressed out.
Yeah.
That shows that you're like moving past letting that those emotions control you.
Yeah, I would say so. I think that it starts with asking yourself, what can I learn from this? Instead of like, oh, this is happening to me. Oh, this is fucked up. This is, oh my God. I could go down that spiral, but I don't ever feel good. It exhausts me to go down that spiral of all of that. And so just to be like, all right, what are we here to learn? What are we here to learn? Yeah. So I think that that's probably the question I go to anytime I'm uncomfortable now. Like, no matter where the fuck I'm at, if I'm in an uncomfortable elevator ride, I'm like, what can I learn from this? Okay, Jamie, you could say hello. You could break the awkward silence, or you could mention something about their clothes, or you could ask them how their day is going. I can break that for myself, and I don't know how the other person's feeling, but really it's just like putting myself out there more, because then I could learn something. So I used to really fear awkward social interactions because of school and just being bullied and all of that. Like, I just always felt like I wasn't up to the standard of being super social. Well, we've all realized that that's a lie I've told myself, because I'm totally fine being super social. But now if I go into things, it's like, what can I learn from this experience? That's it. Just every day, what am I learning? What am I learning? It takes the focus off of like, how am I not being good enough? How am I failing? All the other shit that might go through your head, like, how am I not doing well? Or,
how am I not living up to
whatever?
Every expectation has been placed on me since Eve.
Oh Lord, not Eve. Poor Eve. That poor girl.
Okay,
she didn't have a chance in hell.
Awareness and self-compassion practices. Let's talk about those.
Yeah. So we want to give you things that you can actually do. I know we've talked through a ton of things today, and I hope that you really understood, like, guilt. There's good guilt and bad guilt and taking people's things away, and but all of this is really for you. Our dear, sweet, beautiful witches. This is for you. It is for you to start owning more of your growth. Like, bring your energy back to you so that you can reflect and have time to be alone and sip your tea and look out the window and communicate with trees and birds
and love your life.
Love yourself and love your life. Like, getting to that place. So these are some of the self-compassion practices that I've used to get myself here, and it's been I don't know, probably 8 years since I started doing more of this self-compassion thing. Because first I had to, start therapy and like bring up all my shit and be like, oh my God, I think I am fucked up. Wait, what happened? I thought I was good. Like, how many years ago was that now? If it's 2025 or I don't know, like 8 or 9 years ago. But I would say one good practice is start becoming aware of when guilt arises, how it feels in your body. Where do you feel the guilt hit? Yeah, like where do you feel it hit? Because I think that when we want to take away someone's discomfort, it's heavy-hearted. But I think when you have guilt about something you did, I think it's in your lower chakras. I think it's more in like the solar plexus, like your gut area.
Yep.
So that's how I notice it. If it's like a heart heavy, I really want to ease their discomfort. I know that I'm trying to take their lesson. And I know that when I feel it in my guts, like, oh, Jamie, why did you do that? That was not kind. That does not reflect your morals.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't align with who you want to be. It doesn't align with
like I would be embarrassed, if like, that's another good, would you be embarrassed if like that it was on the 5 o'clock news what you did? Like, I don't know.
Mostly, yeah, pretty much everything.
Another one is to use mindfulness practices. Anything that you can do to bring yourself out of the situation. That's what mindfulness is. Mindfulness is like tapping into a serene, calm place. But deep breathing can help. I've definitely used tapping techniques. I'm a fidgeter, with the ADHD kind of thing. So I will do tapping, but I'll do it in a very light, loving way. To like my wrists or my head or my arms, my shoulders. That can help bring you out of the feelings that tend to spiral like guilt. You can use meditation. I don't say that anymore because everybody knows about meditation. Like turning on your music to do the meditation thing can bring you out of a bad feeling or can bring you out of spiraling into why did I do that? Why can't I take it? Why am I not good enough? Whatever that looks like, right? And because guilt can spiral into shame, and we want to avoid shame because shame, once you attach it to yourself, is really hard to recover from, because the only one who can tell you that you don't need to be ashamed is you. And it's so much like that's a circle that is hard to get around, The next one is to practice self-compassion by reminding yourself. This is a great thing to say to yourself, okay? I'm doing the best I can right now with the tools I have. And that's the right now part is so important. I'm doing the best I can right now with the tools I have.
I think you can say that to things of the past that might come up for you too, especially if you're a mom that's raised kids and maybe one of your kids isn't doing well now, and you're like, or you reflect on being a young mother and be like, God, I wished I hadn't done that, or I could have done better. You know what? You did the best that you could with the tools that you had at the time. At that time. So if you're in a place or something comes up in your life where you are reflecting on things that are pretty old, now, especially if you're like my age and all your kids are adults, or your kid. I mean, even
my kid's
Jamie's
an adult. Oh my God.
Even my grandkids
He'll
are
be 20
almost,
this year. Oh my gosh,
I can't believe that.
Neither can I. What the hell?
Anyway, if you ever have that mom guilt, you can remind yourself, hey, you did the best you could with the tools that you had at that time. So,
and the reason that we want to make it about at that time is every day you can get better. You can work on getting better. You can work on yourself. And it's, small increments. 1% a day is what we used to tell people. Just get 1% better a day. But in a year, that would be 365% better of whatever you were working on, right?
Well, yeah. And the tools that you have, as you go through your journey, through your witchcraft journey, and you grow and you read and you learn and all the things that you do, and you connect with other people who are on a similar path to you, and you align yourself with that higher that higher purpose in yourself, or your soul's purpose in yourself. Yeah. Those little things that you do, those are all little tools that help you get to where that highest elevation of yourself. So you're always, if you're practicing, you're reflecting, you're journaling, you're reading about stuff, those are all tools that you're gathering up, a little arsenal to help you get through these tough times when you're feeling self-doubt or you're feeling guilt.
Lack of confidence.
Yep, lack of confidence.
It all ends up spiraling back to it. It really becomes self-defeating to allow these things to sit in your body and stay with you, and you not deal with them. You lose opportunities to have this, to grow the part of yourself that other bullshit is taking up space in.
Yeah.
You know, like I think about myself as a vessel that can be really, really full or really, really empty, but also what it's full with. Like, is it full of shame and guilt and like sometimes thinking about dumb shit that I did? Like, why did I ever sleep with one of my best friends? That was a dumb thing to do. Like, why does that shit come up at night when you're trying to go to bed? Like, where your mind starts running through things you wish you hadn't done. And it's not guilt or shame, but it's like, I'm still focused on things I did when I was 19. And like, why? Why do that to ourselves? So instead, create these
We do tend to ruminate. That's another thing that women do.
I know. It's
we
terrible.
spend a lot of time in our heads.
I know.
And sometimes it's very unhelpful.
It is. So put these other practices into place instead, I guess is what we're trying to say.
Yes.
Yeah. So to continue to work on living aligned with who you want to be is the goal. And that changes. Remember that this changes. Set a goal for yourself of who you want to become. Maybe you want to be nicer. Maybe you want to be more personable in an elevator. Like whatever. Small goals, guys. Small goals. And then you just work towards doing those new, uncomfortable, scary things. Maybe join Toastmasters if you want to learn to talk in front of a crowd. You know, I still want to join Toastmasters.
I still want to join Toastmasters.
You should. It's now. I wouldn't have said it was fun back then. I would have said it was terrifying. But now I would say it's fun. Living in alignment means that you're prioritizing your authenticity. Like, who is the authentic you? When do you get to see that authentic you person? Is it only when you're alone and in the woods, when you're doing your craft, when you're gardening, when you're driving in your car? Is that the only time that you can be your authentic self? But you want to keep prioritizing being your authentic self, setting boundaries so that you can keep your space, your self-care in check, and making choices that honor your values. Don't get sucked into what other people are doing in their lives. Stay true to your values and what you want to do. I have a couple of affirmations that I really like also.
Okay, let's hear them.
I'm full of these things, aren't I?
You are full of them.
Because this one's really easy, and I've used it in the past over decisions and things I didn't think I did well, and I would talk to my therapist about it, and she's like, well, why do you can't undo it, so now what? What are you going to do? Like, what's your way to move on? So it was a releasing ritual, of course. I release guilt and I embrace growth. Knowing that I'm not happy with my past action is growth. And I didn't see that before. It was like, instead I was always like blaming myself for the bad action.
You stayed ruminating in it.
Yeah, I stayed guilty. I kept myself guilty.
Instead of forgiving yourself, which is your next affirmation. Like,
yes.
I am worthy of forgiveness.
Including my own. Forgiving yourself is fucking hard. Especially when it's something that you really, even if it's a 20-year-old mistake and you still really know you did it wrong.
40-year-old mistake. 47-year-old mistake.
He's going back. 203-year-old mistake.
My oldest kid is 47, so I'm like, I remember when,
So forgiving ourselves. Yes. We're worthy of forgiveness, including forgiving ourselves for our own things.
You are worthy of forgiveness.
You're worthy, yes.
You are worthy of forgiveness.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that wraps up the good guilt versus bad guilt.
I love it. Yes, we have so many lines. It was about going from guilt trips to growth.
There we go.
You know, and this is to reclaim your spiritual journey so that you don't have to live in the expectations of society and other fucking people who don't know you. They don't know you. They don't know who you want to be and what you want to become. So don't let them tell you. You be you.
With that, we would like to thank you for joining us as we navigated the tricky terrain of guilt and how to reclaim your journey through growth, self-compassion, and alignment. Remember that every step you take toward understanding yourself brings you closer to your highest potential. Until next time, honor your shadows, trust your higher self, and let your magic guide the way.
Bye, witches.
Bye, witches.